Scientists have been actively working to raise awareness about climate change, and in their efforts to promote sustainability and environmental stewardship, they often engage with various groups, including Christians. However, some critics argue that scientists are trying to manipulate Christians about climate change, using tactics that exploit their religious beliefs and values. While the intention of scientists is to inform and educate, there are instances where their approach can be perceived as manipulative. One way scientists may be seen as manipulating Christians is by using religious language and imagery to frame the climate change narrative. For example, some scientists and environmentalists have referred to climate change as a moral crisis or spiritual issue, appealing to Christians' sense of ethics and morality. While this approach may be well-intentioned, it can be seen as exploiting Christians' emotional and spiritual connections to the environment. By using religious rhetoric, scientists may be trying to create a sense of urgency and guilt among Christians, compelling them to take action on climate change. Another way scientists may be perceived as manipulating Christians is by selectively presenting data and research that supports their claims about climate change. While scientists are expected to present objective, evidence-based information, some critics argue that they often cherry-pick data that fits their narrative, ignoring or downplaying contradictory evidence. This selective presentation of data can be seen as manipulative, particularly if it is used to create a sense of false certainty or consensus among Christians. For instance, some scientists may emphasize the projected consequences of climate change, such as more frequent natural disasters or severe weather events, without adequately acknowledging the uncertainties and complexities of climate modeling. Scientists may also be seen as manipulating Christians by partnering with Christian organizations and leaders to promote their message. This can be perceived as a form of astroturfing, where scientists use Christian leaders and organizations to create the appearance of grassroots support for their views on climate change. By collaborating with Christian groups, scientists may be trying to lend credibility to their message and create the impression that Christians are united in their support for climate action. However, this approach can be seen as manipulative, particularly if it involves using Christian leaders as mouthpieces for scientific views, rather than engaging in a genuine dialogue about the intersection of faith and science. Moreover, some scientists may be perceived as manipulating Christians by implying that skepticism about climate change is incompatible with Christian values. This can be seen as a form of moral coercion, where scientists use guilt and shame to pressure Christians into accepting their views on climate change. For example, some scientists and environmentalists have suggested that Christians who doubt climate change are denying the science or ignoring God's creation. This kind of rhetoric can be alienating and divisive, creating the impression that Christians who are skeptical about climate change are somehow less faithful or less concerned about the environment. Despite these criticisms, it is essential to recognize that many scientists are genuinely committed to engaging with Christians and other faith communities about climate change. They understand that faith and science are not mutually exclusive, and that Christians have a unique perspective and contribution to make to the climate change debate. By engaging in respectful and open dialogue, scientists can help Christians understand the science behind climate change, while also acknowledging the complexities and uncertainties of the issue. Ultimately, the goal of scientists should be to inform and educate, rather than manipulate or coerce, and to recognize that Christians have a diverse range of views and perspectives on climate change. In conclusion, while scientists may be perceived as manipulating Christians about climate change, it is essential to recognize the complexities and nuances of this issue. Scientists are not necessarily trying to manipulate Christians, but rather to engage them in a dialogue about the importance of environmental stewardship and sustainability. By being transparent about their methods and data, acknowledging the uncertainties and complexities of climate change, and engaging in respectful dialogue with Christians, scientists can build trust and credibility and work towards a more inclusive and effective response to the climate crisis.